What is up, TFA fam? It is week 7. It is the game day show. I am rolling solo for the minute. Kev is on his way back. Don't worry. He told me we're just going to roll 2 today. We don't need a third wheel. Kev is going to put the team on his back. So we're going to kick things off. I already see Coop Dog and Walito in the chat. Appreciate you guys joining us. Coop on the West Coast representing Cali in the house. I want to go over these injuries real quick because we have a bunch, both for your fantasy teams and ones that are going to be hitting your fantasy teams and involving them as well indirectly. So first thing, the Raiders are going to have an offensive line. It's just Trent Brown who was put on the COVID list. Everyone else came up negative on the second and third test. So it's just going to be Trent Brown who is out today for the Raiders. Emmanuel Sanders was also put on the COVID list along with the Buffalo Bills tight end Dawson Knox. We also have a couple big names. Michael Thomas, Joe Mixon are out. Jamison Crowder not expected to play. John Brown out. Austin Hooper. And then we have injuries to guys like Mike Hilton for the Steelers. That's a big one. He's been playing really well. Their cornerback, David Bakhtiari, is going to be out for Green Bay. Bengals cornerback, William Jackson. Lions cornerback, Desmond Trufant. The Jags are going to be without Miles Jack. The Chargers are going to be without offensive lineman Trey Turner and Brian Beluga. The 49ers, when you think it couldn't get worse for them, they already have half of their defense on IR. They're also going to be without Jaquiski Tart, Quan Alexander, and Jimmy Ward today, so that should make life a lot easier on a lot easier on Cam Newton and the Patriots. Tre'Davious White, Matt Milano are questionable for Buffalo, and then for the game that has the highest total this week, the Packers and the Texans. It's looking doubtful for Kevin King and Darnell Savage, who are two big parts of the Packers defense. Preston Smith is also questionable, so that just has shootout written all over it. Hopefully we don't get a dud. And then Justin Jackson is expected to play. Oh yeah, obviously Aaron Jones. That's another big one as well. I think LaFleur said he's more questionable than doubtful. I haven't seen anything yet on Aaron Jones in terms of anything definitive. So definitely make sure that we keep our eyes out for that. That could be a huge one. I think obviously if he is out, that automatically makes Jamal Williams a really nice flex option. And he was still pretty widely available in a lot of leagues. You know, obviously Gio Bernard is going to be a huge guy we're talking about this week. Traquan Smith with Michael Thomas and Manny Sanders being out. So there's a lot going on in week 7. Got a couple of questions we're gonna get loaded up here now. Coop Dog, flex spot. Do I go Gio, Justin Jackson, Chase Claypool, or Amari Cooper? I think I'm just gonna roll Amari Cooper there. I am not. I'm a Claypool doubter. I've been shitting on him this entire time. I know he's been playing really well, but I do. Giovanni Bernard, the Browns, the Browns defensive line is obviously their strength. How involved is he really truly going to be? Is he just going to slide into that Joe Mixon role and get 20 touches? I don't know. I would like to see, me personally, I'd like to see Trevion Williams involved a little bit. Justin Jackson, he was questionable. He's expected to play, but he's going to be splitting time with Joshua Kelly anyway. I think Kelly gets a little bit more involved this week. And Amari Cooper, you don't have to worry about that matchup whatsoever. Josh Norman is also another guy who was out. So I would roll Amari Cooper there. Coop Dog's also in here just bragging about his wide receiver core, wanting to know if he should trade Amari Cooper for Austin Eckler or Claypool. Personally, I would go Claypool. Like I said, I've been a doubter this whole time, but one, Cooper had 10 or 11 targets last week. I don't think that's going to be anything that really changes anytime soon with how bad that defense is. Going to be playing from behind a lot. Obviously, Dalton was really comfortable with targeting him. So Amari is the one I would keep there. And if you can trade Claypool for Eckler, I would do that. But with Austin Eckler and that hamstring injury, I think I saw something with Anthony Lynn saying that he's still probably not even really close to returning. So maybe I would target somebody else, even with you being 5-1, because who knows what happens with Austin Eckler, whether they rush him back or not. So may potentially look at adding somebody else there. Anthony Acosta, pick one. Giovanni Bernard, Josh Jacobs, or David Johnson. There he is. Made it. He's in here. Gonna throw you on the spot as soon as you jump in. Anthony Acosta wants to know Gio, Jacobs, or DJ. I told everyone you were bragging about how ready you were. You're putting a team on your back, going full Marshawn Lynch. Team on my back, though. Who you got here?
I got David Johnson. It's a great matchup for him. So I don't know if you talked about it already, but I'm not high on Gio. Like, I know a lot of people want to play him because, stick him into their lineups because of the fact that Joe Mixon is out and he's likely going to get a large workload. The problem for me is the Browns' run defense is one of the best in the league. They have done an excellent job. I mean, the last time we've seen this game play out already once this year, and Joe Mixon did nothing in that game. So look, he's going to have to get there through pass volume, and I don't feel 100% confident in that. So, David Johnson's matchup is fantastic against the Packers. They are not very good against the run. He's despite the fact that he hasn't been getting as much passing volume, he's still out there running routes. I think over the last 2 weeks, he's run the fourth most routes among running backs as well. So I like David Johnson because this is also a terrible matchup for Josh Jacobs. We're still waiting to see what's going on with their offensive line, how many of them they're going to have back. We already know they're going to be without Brown.
I think they have all four.
So they'll have four, but they are still missing.
Brown was put on the COVID list, yeah.
Yes. So, and the Bucs defense has been elite this year. Not just on the ground, but also through the air. Like, they've been one of the best defenses in all of football this year. We just saw what they just did to the Packers. So I have no faith the Raiders are going to be able to do anything against this defense. So I just can't play Josh Jacobs. And then, like I said, Gio Bernard. So for me, it's David Johnson.
Yeah, I talked about that Bucs defense versus the Raiders matchup in the Week 7 prop talk video that dropped last night, and I'm taking the under on Derek Carr, 273.5 passing yards because of everything you mentioned. I mean, the Bucs are top 3 in both pass and rush DVOA. Their PFF grades are in the top 2, 3, 4 for everything as well. So that is I would agree on that one. I said the same thing with Gio. Does he just automatically slide into the Mixon role and automatically just get the 18 to 20 touches? I'm not entirely sure of that. And mentioned that for me, I've been wanting to see my guy Travion Williams get some run. So hopefully this is a week that he gets it. We got Shades 721 rocking with us as well. Standard League, he's starting Carson, needs a second spot for the running back position, going between Rojo, the guy you just talked about, David Johnson, or should he pick up Jamal Williams and play him over them?
It's Ronald Jones. I have Ronald Jones as now. I need to upload the new rank because I got them all uploaded. I just got to upload them to here. But I have Ronald Jones as the top 8 running back this week. And to talk about Jamal Williams, I know there's a lot of people talking about him. We don't know if Aaron Jones is out yet. That is not there's been no confirmation that Aaron Jones is out. It was just one beat reporter yesterday saying that Aaron Jones will not play. And so as of right now, I think a couple of hours ago, Jay Palacerio had tweeted out that he's still a game time decision, that they're going to test him out in today on the field to see how he does. And Aaron Jones wants to play. So there's still a chance that Aaron Jones plays here. So I hope people didn't go out and make any rash decisions on Jamal Williams. And here's the other thing that I think that everybody's looking at Jamal Williams like he's just some smash play today if he does play. And I don't think that's the case. I think A.J. Dillon has a bigger role in this offense than most people than want to believe if Aaron Jones is out. I think A.J. Dillon is the early down back, takes the first and second down work, goal line work. and short yardage work. And then Jamal Williams, I think, stays in the same role that he had with Aaron Jones on the field. So sure, he probably gets, the pass catching work here, and the Texans aren't a very good defense, but I think people are expecting Jamal Williams to step in and get 15 to 20 touches, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I think he still stays in the somewhat similar same role that he had. He probably gets a few more touches than what he normally would get, but the Packers have something to look at here with A.J. Dillon to see what they have here. They spent the second round pick on him. This is the best opportunity they're going to get all year, barring, some major injury to Aaron Jones, to see what they have in him and to see what he can do. And so I think people expecting that Jamal Williams is going to step right in and get all these touches, I think is a little bit silly. And I just think that A.J. Dillon could end up being, if Aaron Jones is actually out, because we have no confirmation at this point that he is, but if we do get that, I think A.J. Dillon could end up being the guy that everybody wanted to roster here. This is the typical, we think we know what a team is going to do, and everybody goes to this guy. We see it all the time when waivers happen, and somebody gets hurt, and everybody expects it to be this guy, and then it ends up being somebody different, and everybody wastes high waiver priority and all this stuff. Now this week we didn't have to do that because we got this later in the week, but I honestly think, like, if A.J. Dillon is sitting out there and somebody picked up Jamal Williams, I would snatch up A.J. Dillon right now, because I think he is just as good of a play as Jamal Williams.
My internet's all messing up right now. It keeps. I thought that was you at first, and then my screen started doing the.
I was like, is that me or is that him? I can't tell, because I always show you.
I think it's me. Hey, luckily you said you got the team on your back, because if my internet keeps cutting out like this. Anyway, just the last thing I heard you say was talking about the A.J. Dillon and Jamal Williams, and not being entirely sure if Jamal Williams just gets the Aaron Jones work if he is indeed out. So, I mean, do you really think that Jamal Williams is going to stay in the position he was in? You don't see his touches going up at all?
I think it could go up some, but I don't think it's as much as people think that it is. Like, people are looking at him and saying, oh, well, Jamal Williams is going to get 15, 20 touches here. And I don't think that's really the case. Right now, he averages about 6. I think it's 6 carries per game, and he averages right around 2 or 3 targets per game on average. And I think so. You look at that, and it's roughly around 8 touches. I think he could end up getting up to like 12 touches. But I think A.J. Dillon probably gets the bulk of the work here, and gets the early down work, and is probably their lead ball carrier. Now, he is not a great pass catcher, or he wasn't in college, so he's likely not going to get as much pass catching work, which I'm not expecting that. But I just think people are looking at Jamal Williams and thinking that he's just like an RB1 this week without Aaron Jones, and I just think that is a bad process.
Well, speaking of Giovanni Bernard and Jamal Williams, Mark Maloney is in the YouTube chat, wants to know, needs 2 of these. Clyde, Gio, Jamal. Obviously, Clyde, we're going to lock in. Who are you going with between Gio and Jamal?
I'd probably go with Gio, just because I think you can easily project more volume.
If Aaron Jones is declared out, does that change your opinion at all?
No.
El Tato wants to know Monty or Fuller at the flex in PPR. Now, Kevin King is out for Green Bay, but they obviously still have
Jair.
They still have Alexander on the other side. So a little bit better for that Houston passing offense in general. But who are you going with between Monty and Fuller?
I'm going Montgomery. The Rams have struggled. The Rams have been good against the pass. They have not been very good against the run. And Fuller is going to be seeing almost exclusively Jair Alexander, which is not a good matchup for him. So I'm much more on the Brandon Cooks side of things here in terms of the Houston passing attack. Could Fuller, burn me in for a long touchdown? Sure. But I think more times often than not, I've actually lowered Will Fuller down. He's now kind of like a borderline wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3 for me.
So do you think this is more of a Cooks or a Cobb game?
I think it's definitely a Cooks game. I mean, Cooks has gotten more involved in the offense once they fired Bill O'Brien, so I don't think that changes so much today.
Mark Maloney with a second question: half PPR, Boyd or Chark?
Tyler Boyd, and it's not close. So the Chargers do have a really good defense. We know that, but they've had a lot of injuries as well. They now lost Christopher Harris, who was their slot corner, and that is a big blow to that defense. We know Tyler Boyd plays exclusively from the slot, so I love Tyler Boyd.
Well, you got Boyd going up against the Brownies.
Or no, yeah, you're right. I was thinking of the Shark side for Keelan Cole. But Tyler Boyd against the Browns.
Tyler Boyd's going to be so good. He's going to go play the Chargers while he's also playing the Browns at the same time and just smash.
No, I was thinking of Keelan Cole on the other side. Why I didn't want to play Shark. But the Browns have been can easily be beaten in the slot. They've been terrible against the slot all year, and so Tyler Boyd, I think, sees 12 targets today. Love Tyler Boyd. And then why I wouldn't play Shark is because he is going to be seeing Casey Hayward. And that's why I actually have Keelan Cole ahead of DJ Chark this week in my rankings. We saw, I mean, Keelan Cole has now become like the exclusive slot wide receiver for the for the Jaguars, and we saw it last week. He exploded last week for that big game, 130 yards. I think he ended up with in that game. So this is just another great matchup for Keelan Cole, and I really like Keelan Cole a lot today.
For the brand, we got Gion in here wants to know Gio Bernard or Darrell Henderson in a standard league. Obviously, we have Henderson going up against the Bears, whose defense, they haven't exactly played a murderer's row of teams, but their defense has still been really solid throughout the year. Obviously, Henderson has started to look like the best back in that backfield, especially whenever Cam Akers is getting one goddamn snap a game. But who do you got here between these two?
I'm going to go Gio.
Coop Dog agrees with you. Walito out here saying Chark over Boyd. Did you have a chance to pull up the running back stuff yet?
Yeah, I'm loading them up right now.
All right. Walito, we will throw up the graphic here for you in a second. Kev is getting that ready right now. Travis Elkins wants to know Fuller, Claypool, or CD in a standard. Already talked about your questions with Fuller. How do you feel about Claypool and CD Lamb? Again, in a standard league. The second one, Travis, Hunt or Swift. Go Hunt. Again, like Kev was saying, like one of these situations where we think we know what coaches are going to do. I think Swift should obviously be way more involved. Even not even looking at last week. I think Swift should have been more involved. He's clearly their most explosive, dynamic playmaker in that offense. But Hunt kind of has that all to himself. And going up against Cincinnati's, you're not worried about that defense and that matchup at all. So I think that we could see a heavy dose of Hunt and a much better performance than what he put forward last week. So Kev, back to his receiver question. Will Fuller, Chase Claypool, CD Lamb, standard league. Who you got?
I'm going to go CD.
Going CD?
Yeah. And then as far as Hunt is concerned, well, it's definitely Hunt, but I will say with DeAndre Swift, if people own him, I would definitely be firing him up. They talked about this week that they are going to get him more involved. Shocker, like they shouldn't have been doing that all fucking year. Like he's not the best running back that they have, that they spent an early round pick on. And, but early in the process, well before the draft, it was most people had DeAndre Swift as the best running back in this class. He sort of fell a little bit as things kind of progressed through before a pre-draft process. We talked about that all the time. And then once he went to the Lions, people kind of knocked him even more. But, I think they should probably just cut Adrian Peterson and just roll DeAndre Swift as the lead back here. We saw it last week, but I do like DeAndre Swift quite a bit this week. But it's still Hunt.
Daniel made some moves. Daniel, let us know who you ended up trading. Told him to make some small moves, and he went out and got Carson. So hey, that's no small move. So good for you. Walito wants to know if Aaron Jones is out, would you start any of the other two Packers running backs over Kenyon Drake?
I think I would go Kenyon Drake. So the Seattle has not been very good against the run either. The only concern with Kenyon Drake would be is what happens if Seattle comes in and gets an early lead and kind of game scripts him out a little bit, because he hasn't been involved in the passing game, which would spell better things for Chase Edmonds. So it just kind of depends on how you look at that. I don't know. I would probably prefer Kenyon Drake over Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I agree. And even with the weeks that Chase Edmonds looked better than Drake, he still wasn't getting super involved. And you kind of talked about there it is. That is for the running back 3. So you're talking running back 25 to running back 36 in the TFA rankings that you can always find over on the fantasyauthority.com. But you have Jamal Williams all the way down as an RB3 this week. Now, does this matter to you whether or not Aaron Jones, if he's in or out? Like you already talked about, you don't think he gets too much more involved, but do you think like how much higher would you move him? Are you just talking like 3 or 4 spots? Are you putting him at like the top of an RB2? Where are you going to be moving Jamal Williams if Aaron Jones is out?
So these rankings are with the thought process that he is out. I have removed him from my rankings at this point, so I didn't have to go back and do it later. So this is with that in mind.
Well, there you have it. Jamal Williams, RB3, whether or not with Aaron Jones potentially being out. Where do you have Kenyon Drake?
I have him. Yeah.
Okay, so mid to late RB2. So
right.
You're just not buying into the game from last week.
I just think that last week was kind of the perfect storm for them, where they were able to just manhandle the Cowboys and they were able to run the ball pretty much at will. I don't think that they're going to have that same luck going against Seattle. Unless Seattle just comes out and lays an egg, coming off their bye, which we've seen in years past, but it's not something that I would expect to happen. And so with that, I think it becomes much more, we go back to what Kenyon Drake was prior to this a little bit. I do think that he has, the ability to find the end zone. And so it's just going to depend on how this game kind of turns. I think it can stay very close. And as long as it does, then I think Kenyon Drake should stay involved in the offense and, hopefully maybe see a little bit more pass catching work, but it was encouraging to finally see him kind of break out. So
I know I skipped over a couple of questions, but I figured while we had this sweet graphic up, we would get to Tan's question. Half PPR running back Singletary or Phillip Lindsay?
Yeah, it's Singletary. I don't necessarily love this matchup. I know we always look at the Jets, and every time you see the Jets, you get super excited, but the Jets still have been good against the run. They're still, I'm shocked that they're still actually number 3 in adjusted line yards against running back right now. So they're among the defensive line. So that's a tough one. So Devin, and with Zach Moss now back as well. So, but I just think I would take him over Phillip Lindsay, because of the fact that Melvin Gordon has returned, and Melvin Gordon, it's going to be a complete split backfield. I think you can project Devin Singletary to have a larger workload and be more involved in the passing game. So that's why I got Devin Singletary.
Yeah, makes sense. Patrick Garcia wants to know, in a standard league, needs a flex: Robbie Anderson, James Robinson, Chris Godwin.
I'm going to go Godwin.
I agree. Mark Maloney, Stafford or Cam?
Stafford.
Yeah, I like Stafford this week. Hopefully this is a smash week that we deserve. We deserve a Stafford, just like 350-yard, 3 touchdown, just classic Stafford kind of game. Karn, joining us again. Appreciate you jumping back in. Need a wide receiver and a flex. Hopkins questionable, but he's expected to play. I think it's just going to be one of the things that we deal with more or less all year with that ankle injury. We see him on the injury report, and unless we see something where he's like, let's say on Thursday he's limited, and then Friday he's out, he gets downgraded on a Friday practice, that's the only time I'm going to worry about that. But he has Hopkins, Woods, Juju, and Mike Williams. Who do you think Derby's is supposed to be?
Maybe Debo?
Maybe Debo? That's a solid one. So Hopkins, Woods, Juju, the unknown. Let's just call it Debo for right now, and Mike Williams, a wide receiver and a flex.
Hopkins and Woods.
Got the homie Krill. If I had to start two, who should I start out of? Odell, Godwin, AJ Brown. So this is an interesting group here. Kev, which one of these three are you going to sit?
I'd probably sit Odell. It's tough because I kind of want to lean Godwin because I feel like that the volume is not necessarily going to be there because they're not going to have to throw the ball as much. He is still their preferred target for Tom Brady in this offense, but I just don't see the Raiders being able to be all that competitive in this game. And if he doesn't, then it's kind of like last week where he doesn't really see as much volume. I think this Cincinnati and Cleveland game is going to be much closer, and I think it's going to be kind of a shootout. So that's why, if I was shooting for absolute ceiling, I'd probably go Odell and AJ Brown and sit Godwin. But I probably would still, for the floor, go with Godwin and Brown.
Yeah, so that Browns-Bengals game is sitting at 50.5, and the spread is only 3.5. So Vegas agrees with you. Travis Harrison, we got another Godwin, Gio, Jamal Williams question. Just rolling Godwin here. Mason Higdon back in the house says, "What's up, Landry or Corey Davis?"
I'm gonna go Landry.
Yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning, Mike. Or wait, they're not playing the Steelers, so that doesn't matter. I'm not even going to talk about it. Andrew Marks wants to know: are you still starting Cup over Claypool today?
Yeah.
Zachary Chance joining us on Periscope via Twitter. Traded Michael Thomas for AJ Brown this week. Will that kill me, or will I be fine? 1-5. Need to make some moves, shake things up. How do you feel about that trade?
I don't hate it, but I also feel like you probably could have gotten more for Michael Thomas. It's tough. I don't know what the hell is going on. There is a part of me that really thinks that this was just I'm going to stick it to you, Saints. Because it was just weird how it happened. It kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know. There was video of him on the sideline. He didn't look like he was hurt. Or on the side during practice. So I don't know. I don't want to assume that the guy, is pulling something. But there's been a lot of turmoil around Michael Thomas and the Saints the last, month. And I don't know. And it wouldn't surprise me if this dude, who is kind of a diva, decided to just all right, fine. You're going to suspend me. Okay.
Yeah, it's I wanted to make it for this week. I hope nobody else made it yet, but I wanted to get the stoop kid afraid to leave his stoop from Hey Arnold and put put Mike Thomas's face on him. Slant boy afraid to leave his slant. We got Blue Crew joining us. Another Cup Claypool question. He's leaning strongly on starting Higgins and Claypool. Worried about that Bears secondary, and then the other two, the matchups seem to look better. Is Blue Crew worrying too much about the Bears? Obviously, we just had the Claypool Cup question. Just expand on that a little bit, I guess, with the Bears secondary and your thoughts on that matchup.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be that concerned with Cooper Kupp's matchup. He's got to be seeing Buster Screen from the majority of it. He plays, Kupp still plays majority from the slot at 60%. So far, I mean, this year, Buster Screen has not been that good. He allows a 70% catch rate on the season. He's exclusively their slot corner. They don't really switch sides among all their three corners they have in that secondary. So he's got the best matchup of the receiving group here between Woods, Kupp, and him. It's just the only concern I have him a little bit lower this week than I normally would, because they seem to be not always on the same page. And what I'm more nervous about with this overall entire offense is Jared Goff tends to shrivel up and die whenever they play any sort of really good defense. And we saw it a couple years ago where Jared Goff was absolutely anemic against this defense. I know that was a couple of years ago. That Bears defense isn't as good now that it was then, but at the same time, like I am a little bit lower. I'm not expecting a high scoring game here. So I am a little bit lower on Cooper Kupp. But with that being said, I still would play Cooper Kupp with knowing all of that over Chase Claypool. Like, I think people have to remember now, with Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson is back. And I think that is something that people should be taking into consideration when they're looking at playing Claypool this week, because while Juju has not been very good, Chase Claypool is also some of his numbers have been kind of propped up with the amount of touchdowns that he's had, and there's no way that those touchdown numbers are going to continue. And I think Deontay Johnson takes a large chunk out of what they do with Chase Claypool, because we saw it earlier in the year with Deontay Johnson was healthy. I mean, he was getting 30% of the targets in his receiving core. So I have Deontay Johnson ranked ahead of Chase Claypool, and I love the Higgins play. I actually have Higgins as I believe a top 20 wide receiver this week. I like Higgins quite a bit in this matchup as well. So for me, it's Kupp and it's Higgins.
We've had Kevin rant on this before, so we don't have to dive too far into this. But this is by far the absolute worst part about redraft leagues. Like, I'm assuming he's saying the league wouldn't let it go through. They vetoed it. Like, there's zero reason why this trade should have been vetoed. This is the absolute worst part about redraft leagues, like especially with like your friends. Like, nobody wants the other team to get better, so they veto it, and it's bullshit. We don't have to go too far into it. I think Kev has put out PSAs on this for like 3 weeks in a row. And it's a worthy PSA. It is a worthy rant. But then maybe we'll circle back to this at the end. You can give this PSA as we sign off. But that is maddening. There's no reason why Clyde and Davis for Cook and Gibson should like that. That's a fair trade.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I will say that obviously he's getting the better side of it with Cook and Antonio Gibson. I like those two running backs far more. And Mike Davis only has a short shelf life because Christian McCaffrey is going to be back in the next 2 weeks. With that being said, it's not some egregious trade, right?
Yes.
I could see a scenario maybe the guy who's giving up Cook, he continually gets hurt and everything else, so he wants to move on from him. Like, there's all these things to consider, and so that trade is not lopsided whatsoever. And it is the stone cold worst people that do this and try to. It's basically used as a strategy for people. Like, oh, I can't let this other team get any better. And then what you end up seeing is what ends up happening is people start. There's usually one or two people. They start sliding into DMs or calling their buddies and be like, "Hey, we can't let this trade go through." Andrew's going to get better than us, so we got to veto it, and everybody bands together, and it's fucking ridiculous. And that is not the way this shit should be played. Like, if it was me, like I probably wouldn't play next year, because like that shit is ridiculous. It shouldn't happen. The only time a veto should ever be actually used is if it's just clear collusion. If someone trades Mahomes
for Logan Thomas,
Mahomes, Zeke, and Stephon Diggs, yeah, for like just two bottom of the barrel bumps. Okay, I think we'll all be on board that that's bullshit, right? Like, no one's going to deny that. But if it's a trade like this and both sides agree, it is not your decision to do this. So yeah, you're right. I could go on forever about this. It's just fucking bullshit. I hate it. It pisses me the fuck off, and it shouldn't happen.
We now return to your regularly scheduled program. Josh wants to know, good morning, guys. Wide receiver 2 spot. OBJ, Fuller, T. Higgins. You already talked about T. Higgins being one of your favorite plays this week. You're lower on Will Fuller, so I'm assuming one of these guys is going to be T. Are you going OBJ or Fuller with that second one?
It's going to be OBJ.
So rolling Odell and T. Higgins here for Josh.
Yep.
Go ahead and pull up those running back graphics. I'll spit this one out. Daniel wants to know, needs one of these, and that is between Justin Jackson, Devin Singletary, or Damian Harris. You already talked about we talked about Singletary a little bit already. Justin Jackson expected to play with that knee injury. Obviously, Joshua Kelly's still there to take some of those touches as well. But who are you rolling with between these three? Jackson, Singletary, Harris. Daniel needs one.
I'm going to go Singletary.
Such matchup based.
Yeah, I do like Damian Harris a little bit. It's close. I think I have them relatively close to each other. They're not too far off, about 4 or 5 spots away. I do think Damian Harris probably has a higher upside than what Devin Singletary does, or a higher ceiling. But I just feel like Devin Singletary has a much higher floor.
That makes sense. Let's get those receiver graphics up again. Walito needs 3 of these: A-Rob, Godwin, Ridley, and Cooper. Really quick, whenever I first read this, I was like, there's only 3 names there. And I was thinking Riley Cooper, the old white wide receiver. I was like, holy, we're talking about Riley Cooper again, are we? But anyway, A-Rob, Godwin, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper. Which one are you sitting out of those 4?
Cooper.
TTV _ Mikey Soccer 11. Need 2 of these. A-Rob, Cup, Robbie Anderson, Crowder. Crowder looks like he is doubtful for this game. He was downgraded from questionable to doubtful. So even if he plays, I would not be messing around with this. So out of those first 3, Kev, which one are you sitting between A-Rob, Cup, and Anderson?
By the way, I just wanted to Aaron Jones has been ruled out.
There you have it. Aaron Jones is out. Like I said, Crowder was downgraded to, oh, look at this. He doesn't have time to join us on the show, but he can jump in and give us the news.
He's so lucky he's not here today. I was messaging.
He don't want none. He don't want none.
I told him he don't like his rankings are so trash this week, and he can't even say anything to defend himself. Like, are so bad. The man has like DK Metcalf at like wide receiver like 16 or 17 or something like this. Just egregious. So get out of here, Robbie. You're not allowed. If you can't show up, man up. You can't be in the chat.
But no, the Crowder and Aaron Jones inactive, like we were just talking about. So thank you, Robbie, for popping in. But that is a cowardly move on your part, just to jump into the chat. You're like the guy who comes in like whenever all of his boys are fighting and there's someone already on the ground, like you kick them and run away, and you act like the big tough guy. So that's what he is right now. But anyway, did you answer Mikey's question?
No, we got to go back to that.
Okay. So obviously Crowder is now inactive for sure. So A-Rob, Cup, Robbie Anderson, who are you sitting?
I'm probably gonna sit at Cup. Robbie Anderson.
You don't sound like you feel great about that.
You know, the one that I don't feel great about, actually, of the whole group, is probably Allen Robinson because he scares the hell out of me. Nick Foles is # also not good, and he's going to be seeing exclusively, I would assume, Jalen Ramsey in this matchup against the Rams. But the target volume is going to be there, and so it's tough for me to sit Allen Robinson. I love Robbie Anderson's matchup against the Saints. I mean, I don't really care who the corner is that's going to be covering them. Their secondary has been Marshawn Lattimore has not been good this year at all. So it's a good matchup for him. I would expect they're going to be playing from behind. They're going to have to throw the ball. I think this sets up well for Robbie Anderson. So I like him a lot. So it becomes down to A-Rob and Cup. I just would lean towards A-Rob.
Casey Royal, Gio, or Drake?
Drake.
We've had similar questions. Go Drake there. We're just not entirely sure just how much Gio is gonna he's gonna have to do through the air, because that the Cleveland front is still a good run defense, even though their secondary is not. Jariah wants to know, has a little bit of a trade question here. Adam Thielen and Cook for A-Rob, Clyde, Michael Thomas, a good trade. A-Rob, Clyde, and Michael Thomas for Thielen and Cook.
Yeah, I would want the A-Rob side. I mean,
even with the questions with Le'Veon Bell coming in, like Jariah says here, who knows when Thomas is coming back and what's going on with that whole situation we were kind of touching on a little bit earlier.
So I don't think Clyde loses. I mean, I think Clyde still remains the bell cow or the lead back for the rest of the season. I do believe that. I know there was a report this morning that Le'Veon Bell has thoroughly impressed the Chiefs, and he is, going to make his debut today. I think that he certainly is going to be involved in the offense much more than people are talking about. Like, he's just going to be like the Darrell Williams role. I mean, that's not happening. He's going to get more opportunity than that. But I still think Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still the lead back, probably operates at 60% of the touches. So I do like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I love him today. It's a great matchup for him today. And moving forward, I still think you can count on him being, maybe a low-end RB1, high-end RB2. Not as good as what we, kind of originally had thought. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire should have a lot more fantasy points right now. And I think he's actually a really good buy low that maybe we'll talk about on Tuesday or Wednesday whenever we drop that buy low video or buy sell video that we're going to be starting to do, because I think people are thinking that Le'Veon Bell is going to take a bigger role than I think people expect. So I do like Le'Veon Bell, but I also think they can support two running backs, and I think they're going to use Le'Veon Bell in a number of different ways. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still going to probably get 60% of the opportunities in this backfield. So with that being said, I mean, I think you can make that move. I don't think Michael Thomas is out forever. I think you could probably expect him to see him back next week. They're coming off their bye, so I think I would make the move.
Speaking of CEH, Zonky Goose 707 has a question here. Needs 4 of these: Clyde, Justin Jackson, Giovanni Bernard, Jamal Williams, Robert Woods. Obviously, locking in Clyde. Who are you going with for these next couple?
So pretty much sit one, right?
Correct. Who you said?
Justin Jackson. Someone finally got me on a Jamal Williams. I got to start Jamal Williams there. But like Justin Jackson, like here's the thing too with him. Like he's coming off that knee injury, and we weren't sure if he was going to play all the way until now. And also, like I've kind of, even before the injury, like I still like Joshua Kelly this week more than Justin Jackson. And then with the knee injury coupled in with that, I can't play Justin Jackson.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's my big concern with him as well. Curtis Larkin wants to know Drake or Woods.
I'm going to go Woods.
Even I think I might go Drake there, just because of that matchup on the outside is obviously going to be a lot more difficult than the slot like you were talking about with Cup.
Yeah. I don't know. I could go either way, but I'm going to go Woods.
He can go either way. I'm going to go Drake there. Walito, Robinson hasn't played any more than 20 snaps from the slot this year, so I'm not entirely sure how much he'll go in there. Like last week, only 9 snaps from the slot, and on the year, he has 243 snaps on the outside versus just 93 from the slot. Obviously, it would make more sense to move somebody like A-Rob around, but they just haven't shown the willingness to do that up to this point. Zachary Chance back wants to know McKinnon or Bernard, the Nard dog.
I'm going to go Bernard.
Woo!
I think you have to be concerned with JaMychal Hasty here and his involvement in that offense. It was kind of surprising last week once Raheem Mostert went down that they continued to give the ball to as much work as they gave JaMychal Hasty in that game. So, and it's not necessarily a great matchup for him either against the Patriots as well. So that's why, I think that's the way I would go.
Chris and Cannon wants to know, lost Dak. Man, what a blow that is just for the entire season for all fantasy pieces involved. Picked up Derek Carr, but should Crescent go Derek Carr versus that Tampa Bay defense that we were talking about earlier, or Minshew versus the Chargers? Who you got there?
Is there anybody else? Anybody? Like, is there anybody else besides that? Can you tell me, Crescent, tell us who else is available at quarterback. That's what I want to know. There's got to be something better than that.
Yeah, that is
if I had to go one, it would be Minshew. But I would be curious to know what other quarterback could possibly be available.
Yeah, let us know what your waiver options are, because I'm on the same boat as Kev here. It would be Minshew if I had to pick between the two, but there has to be somebody else on the waiver wire that you might be able to feel a little bit better about. Will Morty wants to know, should I drop Tyler Higbee for Jared Cook this week? I mean, Higbee's questionable to play right now, and he's been a massive – he's like kind of one of the understated disappointments for fantasy this season. Like whenever disappointments come up, we always talk about like the first and second round running backs and Michael Thomas right now with everything he's been going on with him. But Tyler Higbee was drafted in the top 7-8 rounds this year. And outside of that one game where he had the 2 touchdowns, he hasn't been doing diddly dick. So I think that's someone you could drop no matter what. But Higbee
would actually – well, though I will say it would actually, though, I wish we knew now or had a better indication, because Gerald Everett would be somebody that I think, could be considered a tight end 1 this week without Tyler Higbee on the field.
Yeah. I mean, all those tight ends, they just haven't been – obviously there was a question about how much 12 personnel they were going to run coming into this year. But like the tight ends just haven't really been involved whatsoever. Really neither one of them. Like neither one is like running a bunch of routes. Like even if you want to add both of them together, they're still falling short of a couple other offenses. So that's like I said, that's just been a super disappointing development there for the tight end position for the Rams. Zach Trump wants to know, in my flex, should I start Edelman or Higgins? Half PPR. Yep. I like that as well. I think Edelman, I haven't seen the latest on him, but he was also listed as questionable coming into this week. And even if he wasn't, I like Higgins better there. Jamison Elson, PPR pick 3. Davis, Hunt, David Johnson, McKinnon, Jamal Williams. So we need to sit 2 out of these 5. Hunt, I'm going to go with, I'm assuming this is Mike Davis and not Corey Davis.
Yeah, so definitely Hunt. Hunt's definitely a lock for me.
David Johnson.
And David Johnson.
So who's the third one we're going to roll with here? Just going to go Mike Davis with the no volume questions that he has? I think that's the way that I would roll with these.
Let me put it this way. I think Mike Davis probably has a little bit better of a floor. But if you're looking for ceiling, I would roll if you're hoping for the absolute ceiling, I would probably roll Jamal Williams in a PPR. I do have this is one of those situations. I have Mike Davis ranked higher, obviously, than Jamal Williams, but this is a terrible matchup for Mike Davis. The Saints have been excellent against the run. And the only way that he really, I think, meets value or hits where he should be, I think, is if he finds the end zone or is heavily used in the passing game. Because as a runner, he's not going to get you there. And so I think there's a better likely chance that you could probably look at, even though I do think Jamal Williams and A.J. Dillon split touches, I think just in a better matchup and a better game, I would probably lean Jamal Williams there in terms of, because I typically try to look for just absolute ceiling.
Yeah, I can see that. I think without knowing what kind of position his team is in, who he's going up against, I would roll the first three, because the volume that Davis is going to see is much safer than Jamal Williams. Dan wants to know thoughts on AB. We haven't really got into this one yet, but obviously AB signed the 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Bucks. How are you feeling on him? We mentioned AB as someone you should go and pick up and stash. I think a week ago, whenever there was some of this news starting to come out. Obviously, he was tied to Seattle at the time, but right now, obviously signed with Tampa Bay. How do you feel with AB here going with Tampa Bay? Obviously, with Evans and Godwin being in the mix as well.
I think people are overreacting in a bad way to Antonio Brown. I think people are looking at Antonio Brown and they're all talking about him like he's going to be dust, and that I think that's ridiculous. In 2018, he was a 1,200-yard receiver with 15 touchdowns. He got into last year. We know all the drama that ensued, but even in the one game that he played with no practice time, coming in on a short week, still had 456 and a touchdown or two. Week 1 for the Patriots last year. Obviously, he was out the rest of the year after he got released. There's nothing to say that this dude is dust, or people try to compare it to Josh Gordon and and I've seen people talk about that and we gotta stop living in the past with wide receivers. But we have no indication that Antonio Brown is anything less than what he was. Now I get the understanding that he's going to a situation where it's kind of crowded with Mike Evans and Godwin. But I actually think this probably really destroys Mike Evans' fantasy value with adding Antonio Brown to this. Mike Evans hasn't really necessarily been playing great as is, and this just, I think, hurts him even more. I think this helps Chris Godwin. I think Chris Godwin, who was playing 56% of the snaps, something like that, from the slot already, I think you could see that go even higher now, where Antonio Brown and Mike Evans pretty much play exclusively on the outside, and Chris Godwin runs exclusively in the slot, which actually high volume or high value targets there for him. But I think that Antonio Brown, people should definitely be picking him up. This is a good offense, and we've seen teams be able to support more than 2 wide receivers anyways. So yeah, I think Antonio Brown was a smash ad, and hope people, took the advice of picking him up early, because he's going to be there, in a couple of weeks, right? Yeah, yes. So he has to sit out this week, next week, and then after next week, he can come back. I do believe they have their bye coming up as well. I'm not sure exactly what week that is, but so yeah, I think Antonio Brown from the start will probably be a little slow, but I think by the fantasy playoff times, he could be a league winner.
We already got this one. Did you say Gio on this one with McKinnon?
Yeah.
Versus Bernard. I personally like McKinnon. I do think that Hasty and possibly Jeff Wilson, I think he's expected to play. But I think the reason why we saw Hasty get so much run last week, he saw a lot of those touches after that game was kind of out of reach, and that's whenever he was picking up some of those. I do like McKinnon over Bernard here. Crescent Cannon, here are the options that Crescent has over Minshew and Carr from his question earlier. So looking at Big Ben, Mayfield, Jimmy G, Herbert, Dalton, Goff. So we're not going Mayfield, not going Goff.
It is 100%. I don't even have to think about it. It's pick up Justin Herbert. Like, that is a slam. Like, I don't even know. Like, man, I'm happy we asked.
Yeah.
I absolutely love Justin Herbert this week. I have him as a top 7 wide or top 7 or top 6 quarterback this week. Like, this is a fantastic matchup. He has crushed all year. This is a great matchup against the Jags. So it's Justin Herbert. So I don't think this is updated. That's the old one.
Okay. Well, that's what I get for trying.
I have basically I moved him. No, I have him as top 7 because I moved him ahead of Stafford. So
Molito is in agreement with you there. He said Big Ben or Herbert, so he's right on par with you. Carlos wants to know pick 2: Clyde, Gibson, Swift. So which of those 3 are you going to sit? You talked about Swift, you liking him this week. Obviously, we like Clyde as well. Are you going to start Gibson over Swift, or are you rolling Swift and Clyde?
Yeah, I got to go Clyde and Gibson here. I would ask, like, do you have somebody else that you're starting? Are these the two? Are these your running back options? Do you have a flex option available? Because I really would like to get Swift in the lineup as well. But yeah, it would be Clyde over Slayer and Gibson.
And then for tight end, needs one of these: Gronk, Hurst, or Tanyan.
Hurst.
Another DeAndre Swift question. This one coming from Garrett Yanka. Swift or Justin Jackson in standard?
Swift.
Evan wants to know Gio or Jamal?
Gio.
Another Gio question from Evan. Robbie Anderson or Gio at flex?
Robbie Anderson.
Brandon Friedrich wants to know Joshua Kelly or A.J. Dillon. For me, that one is Kelly. What say you?
Yeah, I'm going Kelly.
All right. Have we gotten any of those questionables that have rolled in for? And obviously, we had A.J. Dillon and Jamison Crowder who were verified as out. Has there been any other big ones that have come in since the 11:30 inactives have been announced? So today,
Robert Tanyan was confirmed as active. He was questionable, so he's playing. I saw Curtis Samuel is expected to play. I mean, nothing that really is like groundbreaking.
Yeah, so the big ones we already got to: Curtis Samuel active, Robert Tanyan, Sam Darnold, Tre'Davious White is also going to play. He was questionable with some back issues. And then inactive, Jordan Akins. So if you need a tight end, Darren Fells, obviously out there with the week that he had last week. Aaron Jones, Jordan Akins, Kevin King, Darnell Savage, Crowder. Here's the big one. Adjust all your ranks for this. Sam Ficken, the Penn State boy, the kicker for the New York Jets is out. So we might as well just shut everything down this week. That is that's a big one. That's going to rock. That is going to absolutely rock the fantasy world. Our guy JJ Walsh is in the chat. T. Higgins or Cole Beasley? I like Beasley as just in general as someone that I think should be a little bit more rostered than what he currently is. He's been pretty steady all year, but I think this one, especially with as high as you are on T. Higgins this week, Kev, I'm going to go T. Higgins here as well over Beasley. But if you're listening and maybe you're in like a 10, 12 team league, something like that, and Cole Beasley is available, I do like him, especially as bye weeks and obviously injuries always on the mind that are coming up here. So let's what are there any games in particular, like the one that I can't really quite put my finger on this week is that Steelers versus Tennessee. I think the Steelers opened up as like 3-point favorites. Now that line has moved all the way Can you throw the tight end rankings up for Walito? Do you have those updated? There you go, Lito. There are your the tight end ones. But yeah, I think the Steelers opened up as like 3-point favorites on the road, and now that line has completely switched, and now they're getting 1.5 on the road going up against Tennessee. That line is sitting at 51 for the total. That's just one of those games like I can't quite put my finger on in terms of how I see that playing out. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up being like a 21-17 kind of game where it's just kind of a lower scoring, not a lot of plays being ran. But it also wouldn't surprise me if we got close to this 51 total either. How are you feeling about this game in general? Corey Davis, I believe, is active and he is back. It's just one of those ones where like I kept going back and forth on it. Do you have any strong feelings in this matchup? I guess either for stars or just the game in general.
I think so. We're talking about the Pittsburgh game, Pittsburgh and Titans,
Yep.
right? I think a couple different things. One, I would be slightly concerned with Derrick Henry because of the fact that they lost Taylor Lewan. That is a big blow to that offensive line, who is already not performing great. I know when you look back and you just look at the box score and say, well, Derrick Henry was fantastic last week because the numbers that he put up, but it was kind of a crazy way that he got there because through the first 3 quarters, I think he only had like 10, 11 fantasy points at that point. And then in the fourth quarter, like the last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, then it went to overtime is when he absolutely blew up. And that's when it all came. I would not expect that today against a great Pittsburgh defense. Like Pittsburgh is either, if not the best, the second best defense in all of football. They are really good. And I will say, yeah, the only player that I feel at least confident about on the Tennessee side is AJ Brown. Steven Nelson can be beat in that secondary for Pittsburgh, and so that is who AJ Brown will be seeing. So I do like that on that side of the ball. I think this game does have sneaky shootout potential through the air, and then on the Pittsburgh side, I love James Conner. I like him quite a bit. And then, like I said, I think Deontay Johnson's in a great spot. And then if I had to play Claypool, I think you could do that as well as like a wide receiver 3 flex option. And then it's the same thing with Eric Ebron. If you're in need of a tight end, I think you could do that as well.
JJ wants to know why we like Swift this week. I mean, for me, hopefully Matt Patricia just gets his head out of his ass and looks at what he did last week and says, oh, even if I'm not going to give him double-digit carries, I should probably give him more than like the 5 max that I've given him. It's a high over-under. Even if Atlanta gets out to a big lead, we obviously know that Swift is going to be the pass-catching back for the Lions. I mean, he's had fewer than 4 targets in just one game, and that came week 3 against Arizona, where that was a tight game. So whether or not they fall behind doesn't matter. He's not going to get game scripted out. Hopefully, after last week, where he saw 14 carries, he's a little bit more involved this week. So for me personally, that's why I like Swift. Hopefully, this starts the turnaround in terms of him seeing the bulk of the carries over Adrian Peterson, or at least gets closer to a 50-50 split there. That's what I say.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely the better running back. I think we've seen it now. This almost has some sort of a feel of like if you remember, like back when Adrian Peterson was on the Saints, right? They brought in Adrian Peterson, didn't really know what to expect from Alvin Kamara at the time. And then they eventually just moved on from Adrian Peterson and cut him. Like I could see that same situation playing out here. He is just kind of the claw, just clogs up this backfield. He's not really needed. I think Kenyon Kerryon Johnson, I think, is a fine backup running back for this team. If even if something were to happen to DeAndre Swift, but DeAndre Swift should be the workhorse in the backfield. So we've kind of seen it trending this way. Like even though the DeAndre Swift hasn't been as gotten heavily involved in this backfield, he's still been a decent fantasy back, giving you at least double-digit fantasy points in most weeks. So, and then he had the explosion spot last week. Like he was probably a great buy low, and that window is probably closed because of the fact that he had such a huge week this week. And I think he has another really big week this week. So,
Kev, for the brand, two of your boys that you were talking about. I mean, you're always talking about Keelan Cole, but then Traquan Smith is someone who you've been kind of pounding the table for a little bit over the past couple of weeks. But Bernie wants to know Cole or Traquan at the flex.
It's Keelan Cole. Like we already talked about it, that he has by far the best matchup in this matchup for the Jags. DJ Chark's going to be having tough sledding here with Casey Hayward, with Chris Harris out. That really opens things up for Keelan Cole. Keelan Cole has basically become their primary slot wide receiver, and so I like Keelan Cole quite a bit this week.
Then we have a couple more like Saints-esque, Saints-involved questions here. Walito, whenever he was asking about the tight end rankings, he saw you had Cook at 12. And that's even with Sanders and Thomas out. Who do you like between Cook and Fant? Obviously, your rankings on the graphic that you just pulled up had Fant at like 7, I believe, and then you had Cook down at 12. What are your thoughts on general with Jared Cook at the tight end position with those two being out? Because after Kamara, I mean, you're looking at Traquan, Cook. I mean, maybe Marquez Callaway gets a little bit more involved. But do you see Jared Cook's involvement jumping up heavily with the absences that they have? The most targets that Cook has gotten this year has been 7. That was all the way back at week 1. Since then, he's had 5, 3, and 3 over those first 4 games that he's played. Obviously, he was out the 1 week. So thoughts on Cook, and then also Cook over Fant for Walito.
I would roll Fant in this matchup. Explosive. I do like Jared Cook quite a bit. I think Jared Cook is a good play today against the Panthers, especially with Michael Thomas out. I think it kind of opens the door for him. To once again, now Jared Cook was also battling some injuries earlier in the year. He should be completely healthy coming off the bye. So he's likely, and now especially even more so with Emmanuel Sanders out, like there's really not a ton of options here for the Saints in terms of the passing game outside of Alvin Kamara and Traquan. So I know you mentioned Marquez Callaway. That's much more of a deeper league type of play at wide receiver. But right. I think Jared Cook does make a lot, especially in the red zone, to get a lot of opportunities. But, another one that we haven't talked about yet is David Njoku, right? With Austin Hooper being rolled out early on Friday, or what was it? Was it Friday or Saturday that he was? I think it was Friday that he was rolled out. That we got that news. But regardless of that, at first I was like in love with David Njoku. I was like, oh yeah. Like David Njoku's got to shine now, boys, because this is a great matchup. Cincinnati's terrible against the tight end, and this is I kind of liked Austin Hooper as a high end tight end too. But and then once this initially happened, I was like, okay, I'm all in on David Njoku this week. He's going to be widely available. Anybody can go out and pick him up. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've looked into it, like Harrison Bryant and David Njoku have been splitting touches in this on this defense. And I think both of them are going to get opportunities here. I still like David Njoku more. And if you're needing a tight end, like I think that David Njoku does make some sense to add, especially with how volatile the defense is, or how volatile the tight end position is. I'm sorry. And, he does have rapport with this team. He's been around for a while. But so if you're needing a tight end, like I think David Njoku, I think is a pretty interesting guy to pick up this week. Or if you're in like a 16-team league, 14-team league, and all tight ends are picked up, and you lost for like Austin Hooper, I think Harrison Bryant would be another guy that you could start.
What?
Yeah, I agree. The Browns are giving up the 6th most fantasy points per game to the tight end position. They've given up the 4th most. Did I say the Saints?
No, I think you said the Browns. But you should have said the Bengals is what we're talking about.
Yes. A lot going on in the Kutzer household right now. Wife's got buffalo chicken dip rolling. The son is hungry, getting close to his nap. So you're teetering on that hungry, tired edge there. And we have a birthday party for the little one to go to today. He's going to be 2 next week. So busy day in the Kutzer household. A lot going on. My mind is everywhere. But yes, the 4th most yards the Bengals have given up to the tight end position. Tan wants to know thoughts on this Cowboys-Washington game. Do you think Washington can get the dub?
I mean, sure, anything's possible. I wouldn't count on it. It does sound like this is going to be a really nasty game. Looking like a lot of rain, 30, 40 mile an hour winds. So it's not necessarily conducive. I think it's going to be a on the ground and pound type game. Maybe hopefully Ezekiel Elliott can bounce back, but this isn't necessarily a great matchup because Washington has been pretty good against the run this year. And Ezekiel Elliott has 20 fumbles since he's been in the league, and he just continues to fumble. And it's funny because he had talked last week about prior to the Arizona game that he's got to get that taken care of. He's got to get it cleaned up, and then he fumbled twice in the game. So that's obviously not good. But I think the Cowboys win. But could Washington win? Sure. I mean, as much division and drama that's going on behind the scenes there in Dallas, with players calling out the coaches and saying that they're not prepared. And then you got Mike McCarthy then coming back out and saying that, maybe they're over preparing, and I'm like, what? And so, it's just a crazy situation there in Dallas. So could I see Washington win? Sure. But it's not something I would bet on.
Yeah. And you mentioned that defensive line for Washington, and Dallas is going to be without Tyron, and they're also going to be without Zach Martin this week as well. That over-under on that game right now, the total is 44.5. And if you're talking about rain and wind and everything, this is going to be one that we can all safely just skip over and not really have to, that's nice whenever, especially if you stream games or you have like the Game Pass or something. It's always nice to just be able to nix one out that you don't have to pay attention to. And I think that is going to be one of those this week. Our guy Max Packard in the house. What's up, Max? Thank you for joining us here. Max wants to know Breeze or Minshew.
I'm going to go Breeze.
And then the other Saints question, this one coming from JJ. He picked up Traquan. Is Traquan a good start this week with no Sanders and no Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, the Panthers have been better against the pass than they have against the run. But I still they have nobody to throw the ball to at this point, right? I mean, I think that if you're trying to tell yourself a story of how this game goes, I think you probably see the Saints really try to run the ball and down their throat and not have to throw the ball as much. But with that being said, I still think Traquan, who has played decent in with Michael Thomas being out, and then now with no Emmanuel Sanders, it's hard for me to see even with a game that I feel like that they're going to try to run the ball and they should be able to do so with pretty good success. I think that Traquan still likely sees probably 8 to 10 targets, has a shot at the end zone. So I do think he's still a pretty decent play.
Rojo, Monty, Jamal Williams, pick one. This one coming from Wasi.
Ronald Jones.
Agreed. Another Rojo question here. Another one from JJ. Rojo for Tyreek Hill. Who do you want in that trade?
Tyreek.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about Rojo as a sell high. So if you can get that return for Rojo, I do like that. Ray, the other Steeler fan in this group, wants to know pick up Justin Jackson versus the Jags, Jamal Williams versus the Texans, or just play Cooper versus Washington in the flex spot for standard.
I'm probably going to regret this, but I'm going to go Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I did not know about that weather condition in Washington. So if that's going to be the case, I mean, Andy Dalton is one of those guys who kind of needs to have everything be perfect to begin with. And now if you're adding in all these elements, you're adding in the offensive line injuries going against the defensive line, the pass rush for Washington. That's yeah. Go Jamal there, especially with Aaron Jones, who has been ruled out as inactive. Walito wants to know another trade question here. Eckler for Clyde. Who do you want there in that? I think it's Clyde.
Yeah. Give me Clyde. I mean, it really sounds like Austin Eckler's not going to be back this year. I think Austin Lynn, as he's either today or yesterday, or today, but either this week or the week before, I believe it was earlier this week, though, said that he is going to be back later rather than sooner. And depending on where the Chargers stand, I mean, they may not bring him back at all. So I don't know when it's going to be. I mean, it could be week 10, week 12, week 13, week 14 before he's even back. So by that point, you don't have time to sit around and hold on to Austin Eckler. It really would depend on what your roster looks like. But even still, even if he does return, who knows what he looks like, how he's going to play. I mean, Clyde, you know what you're getting for the next, for the rest of the season. So it is, if you could make that move, slam that accept button for Clyde.
Well, Lito wants to also know, could this be a big Latavius Murray game? I mean, Latavius, I think he's averaging 10.5 carries. The Saints are touchdown favorites at home. I talked about on the Week 7 prop talk video that I like Latavius Murray over 38.5 rushing yards because of that with the absences that they have. You had mentioned the way to beat Carolina has been through the ground more so through the air. So I do like Latavius Murray this week. Would you plug him into a flex spot?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he's a really good flex play today. As long as the Saints are able to get up early, I think he sees more opportunities than he normally would. It probably sees some goal line opportunities as well. So yeah, I think he's a good play. And this is definitely Gio. I just can't listen. I want to play Juju. I do, right? But you can't because he's just been awful and he continues to be awful. And so you can't just keep putting him in. What do they say? Like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Like
expect the different result.
Yeah, and that's really what it is with Juju right now. Now, could Juju go out today and go 6 for 110 and 2? Yeah, sure. But there's nothing to indicate that that's going to happen. I don't know if this injury that he's been playing through is much worse than what we know. It wouldn't surprise me at the end of the year we find that out, that he's been playing through some terrible injury. But right now, I just don't think you play him now, especially with Deontay Johnson back. No, give me Gio.
Hello. Sam Bill wants to know Mike Davis or Chris Carson. For me, that's going to be Chris Carson. I really like him this week. And Hill or Lockett, who are you rolling with for that second one? And or do you disagree with going Chris Carson over Mike Davis?
It is Chris Carson. I have Chris Carson as like a top 2 or 3 running back this week.
My man. And then
I have him at number 2. Yeah.
Then for that second one, Hill or Lockett?
I'm still going to go Tyreek.
Looks like Ray Gamer is doing the same trade that Walito is doing, and his is already pending. So if that's a trade you can make, I absolutely definitely go for that. TS wants to know pick 2. Gio McKinnon, Justin Jackson, or Brandon Cooks. Needs an RB2 spot and 1 for the flex. We've already talked like the I think this is at a 57 over under for that Texans game. So I'm definitely going to put Brandon Cooks in your flex spot. Kev, which running back for the RB2 spot do you like for TS here? Gio McKinnon or Justin Jackson?
Or Brandon Cooks. Oh, we got to pick 2. So Brandon Cooks is one of them. I'm gonna go Brandon Cooks for the flex, and then at RB2, I'm gonna go Gio.
See, this is a rational Steeler fan. Most Steeler fans, if you put on like the local radio, everybody just shits on AB. Just thinks he's the worst. He's done. He was never that good. Ben made him. This is a rational thought. Yes, that is legit. And it's one of those things where I turn on the local radio, I hear 4 seconds and I have to shut it off because I don't know why I do it to myself, because every time it is just god awful. But yes, Ray, glad you picked up AB. I'm excited to see what he can do as well. It has been super quiet for Antonio Brown since the summer, whenever he was on Instagram Live and yelling at cops and having baby mamas coming in and out and taking shit and whatever was going on with that whole ordeal. So hopefully he got his shit figured out. Hopefully that wasn't because there were whispers about one of the reasons why he fell to the 6th round whenever he came out as a draft pick is because he had some some off the field and possibly some mental issues going on with I guess potentially some bipolar disorder and shit like that. So hopefully whatever was going on with him in his personal life and his mental health, hopefully that is all straightened out for him, because he is one of the best wide receivers that we have seen in recent memory. And that's going to be a fun offense to watch from an NFL perspective. For fantasy, I don't know how that's gonna shake out and who all that's going to affect just yet. But from an NFL perspective, that is going to be a fun one to watch, and I'm also excited for him, Ray. So thank you for being a rational Steelers fan. It is uncommon here in these parts. So Kevin,
why do you hate the Steelers so much? That's what I want to know. Can you tell me that?
Well,
Steeler fan, you are the most pessimistic I've ever seen. Which is good. You shouldn't be Homer level, because I'm a Chiefs fan and I can call them out on their bullshit whenever I see it. But it feels like you actively root against the Steelers, and I'm trying to understand, especially as good as they've been this year.
It is because we're just delaying the inevitable. So I am rooting against them because with the Roonies are super, super loyal, almost to a fault. And we're just delaying the inevitable. This team needs to be burnt to the ground. I think the GM, I think Colbert should be in question. Tomlin should be in question. I think we just need to just burn it all down and just completely rebuild. But the more they keep winning these games, the more it's just going to extend Tomlin's life and his time with the Steelers. So yes, I am actively rooting against them because I just want to see I want to see the tear down, to see the rebuild, and that is inevitably coming. That offensive line is getting old and starting to fall apart. Ben isn't going to be around much longer. Juju's probably gone. The defense, we have a couple of guys, but we're going to have to figure out who we're going to be paying and who we're going to keep around. So that it's going to get ugly. So I'd rather just that ugliness and the darkness, the dark ages for Steelers fans, be here right now, so we can just start the journey to the light. That is why. And because every time I turn on local radio, I cannot stand the yinzers that are just in there yapping and yapping and yapping. Got a question here from Art Stay Chillin'. Pick 2, James Robinson, Chase Claypool. Fucking Chase Claypool. And T. Higgins. I think T. Higgins is going to be locked in for us, I believe. Are you going James Robinson or Chase Claypool for that second one?
I'm going to go Higgins.
Need 2 there, Buckaroo. I already said Higgins.
I'm sitting Claypool.
So we're going J-Rob and T. Higgins there. Chris has a couple of questions here for us. Let's just go one by one through these. Cam or Matt Ryan?
Ryan.
Agreed. McKinnon or Drake?
Drake.
Agreed. DJ Moore or Deontay Johnson?
Moore.
Brah, brah. That's how you do that right there. Yeah, that's the goal. Win the Super Bowl, drop kick everybody off the team, and just and restart. I mean, let's be honest. They're absolutely going to make the playoffs, barring some like crazy meltdown. They're absolutely going to make the playoffs. Like I said, I'm not going to get back into this whole spiel, but that's where I sit. And it's easy for you to sit there and be optimistic about the Chiefs whenever you guys just keep you have your core intact. You just won a Super Bowl and you have potentially the best player in the NFL on your team. I'd be feeling great too.
Well, excuse you. It's not potentially the best. It is the best player in the NFL. But well, yeah, of course. But at the same time, I get where you're coming from. I get it, right? Because you're looking at it like a rational fan of, they're a rational fan. They just want to make the playoffs every year at all costs. They don't care if the team has actually no shot of actually going to the Super Bowl. Like, listen, what the Steelers did last year was super impressive. They were really close to going to the playoffs with fucking Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, right? But at the same time, and the defense is still just as elite as this year. And Big Ben is good enough to get them to a Super Bowl this year? Maybe. With as good as this defense is, it's possible. It wouldn't surprise me. I think they have the recipe to be able to upset like a team like the Chiefs, where we've seen the Chiefs struggle at certain times. So, what is it possible for them to make the Super Bowl? Yeah, but is it something that I would count on? No, but I also understand the fact of understanding that how much longer does Big Ben realistically have? Maybe a couple of years at the most. He has played really well this year, so that's hard to deny. But so I understand that because back when the Chiefs Patrick Mahomes, it was just kind of the same thing where we had Alex Smith, where we were always good enough to make the playoffs, but we were never good enough to actually, we were always the groomsman, never the groom, right? Always with the Chiefs. So we'd make the playoffs almost every year with Alex Smith, but we were never good enough to actually make it to a Super Bowl. So.
I will say, if you as we kind of sign off here, we appreciate you guys jumping in. If you're rocking with us, been paying attention this whole time, we really appreciate it. If you are not yet subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to us. I will say, if you are in a 14 or like a 16 team league, I'm not sure if I would do this on a 12 team league just yet, but Denzel Mims was activated off IR. So if you're in a deeper league, I think he's at least worth a speculative stash to see what can happen there. Obviously, 18, 10-team league, absolutely not. 12-team, I think, is borderline. But if you are in a deeper league, 14, 16-team league, I think you can look to stash him and kind of just see what happens. Because if you're in a 14-team league, you have that one player that you're typically rotating out every single week is kind of just your bottom of the barrel last roster spot. So that is all I'm going to say. We will be back tonight to hit you guys with the early look at the waiver. So we'll have that coming for you. Like Kev talked about earlier, we will have a buy, sell, trade target kind of video coming for you guys. We're going to record that on Tuesday, and then we will be live with you on Wednesday. We are going to have a special guest that Kev has lined up. So we will be doing that on Wednesday just to give you an early look at the week and talk about waivers and trades and more lineup questions. So hope you guys all have a great week 7. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all safe. Hope you are all happy. Until tonight, bye.